Do we need more scepters?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Stath Vaille, FC for Brave. This class is about how to fly cormorants, how to FC cormorants, how cormorant fleets work. The idea is so that people can go out and run their own cormorant fleets, or just maybe better understand what other FCs are doing when they're flying cormorants. In my opinion, cormorants are the most fun fleet to fly in EVE. I fucking love cormorant fleets. Cormorant fleets are super cheap, so you can just do ridiculous things with them. You can YOLO them. Basically, if you take a cormorant fleet out as a new FC, people don't expect to come back. Like, people will be happy to explode. It's just like Tal Wars. So it's a great fleet for practicing FCing. You learn a bunch of really useful concepts in FCing cormorants. Basically, FCing cormorants is the same thing you do to FC slippery peats or those bushy eagles that were flying last night. It's exactly the same concept. It's just more expensive, better ships. So they're fucking great, and you should all fly them. First thing I want to talk about before we get out and about in space and actually do things is the actual fit itself. So the Cormorant longbow fleet is linked in the MOTD. So if you guys could open this up. The way the way a longbow works is it is bonused for super duper range, and it's basically completely min-max to shoot things from a long way away. So it's got mag stabs, which give it strength, give it DPS, locus coordinator gives it range, ancillary current router gives you the ability to fit things. You need 2 sensor boosters in the mids. These allow you to target out to long range. You can actually shoot further than you can lock in the ship. It's ridiculous how far it can shoot. Micro warp drive. Micro warp drive you tend not to use a huge amount in cormorant fleets. It's not really a fleet about anchoring. It's more a fleet about getting into position, aligning and warping. And then obviously guns for doing the pewing. Most fits take 2 types of ammo. You take your long range ammo Spike. Spike's what you use in almost all situations. And you take a short range ammo. So you can either take antimatter, which is short range high DPS, or you can take Javelin, which is a Tech 2 equivalent, which is super short range, but with improved tracking. You tend not to use antimatter as much. The only time you really use antimatter is if you're just ganking something that's come through a gate that isn't a threat to you, or like bad things happen and baddies get on you at 0. Most of the time you want to be fighting out at spike range. So that's the fit. That's how the ship works. The bits I'm going to talk about now is how you use the fit, how you use the ship, how you use the fleet to start to basically get kills. In terms of the stats, you get with Spike perfect skills, you get a 95 kilometer optimal range. So the way optimal range works, for people who aren't quite aware, optimal range is where you're applying like quote unquote maximum damage. Once you're at your fall off, so that's another 7 kilometers after your optimal range, you're applying half damage. So even if you're a little bit into your fall off, you're still applying a shit ton of damage. And obviously the more cormorants you've got, that's fine. So don't feel too bad about shooting beyond your optimal. What's more important to minimize with a cormorant is the tracking. So you have a tracking of 34.5, that's your like magic tracking number. So it's not terrible, it's pretty good. You're small guns still, so you've got pretty decent tracking. But if you've got interceptors or small ship burning fast, that might be a little harder to hit. So you want to do things that minimize tracking, basically, or maximize your tracking efficiency, minimize angular velocity of the enemy. So you can get those dank kills. The other thing that I think is really important to talk about is Corms versus Tal Wars. So Tal Wars are kind of the other equivalent T1 Destroy Doctrine. Baller Tom takes out some badass Tal War fleets and gets a lot of action. Personally, I prefer Cormorants. So Tal Wars are missile boats, which means you can alpha for a lot of damage. So if you get very large Tal War fleets, like 70-man Tal War fleets, you can just like alpha basilisks and shit. It's ridiculous. But for the smaller number, like what we normally get in a row, like right now 30 people, Cormorants are better. Cormorants do instant application damage, so you lock someone up, you click the button, and they immediately pop, which is super useful for your fragile destroyer doctrines where you want to get in, pop something, and get out. You don't want to be hanging around on grid too long, because as soon as people get on top of you, they fuck your shit up. Tal Wars can anchor and move around the grid. You basically run your micro warp drive non-stop and anchor and move around. Cormorants, you don't really do that as much. You rely more on combat probing, warping, and having people to warp out too. The other thing to talk about is Corms versus Harpies. The Harpy is basically a better version of the Corm. So the Harpy does slightly less DPS than the Corm. The Corm does 154, the Harpy does like 109. Slightly less DPS, but the Harpy has more tank, more survivability, and it's faster. So you anchor them up, you move them around, you can get in close, you can scram dudes. The Harpy's a more versatile, better version of the Corm for most cases. Corms are good because they're cheap. Corms cost nothing, like I said before, they're disposable, so awesome for learning to FC in. And just for like doing if we want to do a roam into Detoroid, you might not want to take 500 million isks worth of fleets, like in a Harpy fleet. You take 200 million isks worth of Cormorants, and you've got way more Cormorants than you would ever need. So personally, that's why I like them. Next thing I want to talk about is setting up the fleet. So if you're taking out a Cormorant, you need to set up a fleet. That's super easy these days. You create a new fleet in the fleet menu. Normally in the MOTD, you do cog window, open channel settings, put in some shit there, put what comms you're in, put the fleets in there. Loads of people don't put fits in fleets, and I always think that's silly because then they're just people constantly asking what the fit is the entire time. So I always make sure to fill that out. And then you're basically good to go. Create the advert, fleet menu, create the advert there, and then ping it, get people joining. So creating a fleet is pretty easy these days. Back in the day you had to muck about with squads and wings and shit. You don't have to do that anymore. So just get it up, get people coming in, bounce around some comms and try and get people to join. Yeah. Next thing I want to talk about is the actual FC fit. So you can fly all sorts of ridiculous things for Cormorant. So Jackdaws are common. Nina Stepney, if you guys remember him, he used to be a brave dude. He now flies with goons. He does a lot of Cormorants. He'll fly a brick tanked Jackdaw, so you can get like a 40k EHP Jackdaw, which makes you really hard to headshot. You can do command desses, maybe provide some links or do some booshing. Personally though, why I fly in almost all Corm fleets is this fit I'm in now. So the fit I've linked, sorry, that's the regular fit. Let me link the FC fit. Yep, that's the FC fit. So basically what I've done here is you always want probes in an FC boat. Probes are your friend, so you put probes on. Problem is probes use a load of CPU, so to get away with that, you need to swap the two mag stabs, so swap your damage mods for co-processors. They give you enough CPU, and then take off all but one gun. The reason you keep one gun is two reasons. One is you get on kill nails, whore gun, and secondly, if you use the same gun that everyone else uses, you get to fire the same guns they're firing at the same ranges they're firing with the same ammo they're firing. So if you need to remember what the ranges are, like you literally hover over it and it tells you. Also, it shows you how well you're tracking. So it will show you like if you're missing all your shots, or if they're applying, or if like they're grazing. So shooting the same weapon systems that your fleet shoots is really useful for figuring out how it goes. We are in LTAC 5. Which is next door to REB, so just come to LTAC 5, chill on the Keep Star. People have been bumping me around like crazy. Feel free to join them. We'll be going out and about in a second.
Hang on, MC, I'm just fitting my ship.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, fill it up. No rush, I'm just chatting about fits for a second. Okay, so I've talked about the ship. Oh yeah, next thing, what can we kill? So what can you do in Cormorants? So Cormorants are cool because any fleet is going to have something that you can pop in a Cormorant, right? All fleets have an interceptor in them. All fleets have a Dictor in them. And those ships are, even if you can never pop the like ridiculous EHP Tengu Loki doctrines, like you're just never going to kill them, you can at least kill their interceptors, kill their Dictors. That's kill an interceptor, that's a 40 mil kill mail. That's a good time. That's a good time to be had by all. A 5-man Cormorant fleet can always be on grid dicking about with, if you want a third-party fights or just like harass roaming gangs as they go through, there's loads of shit that you can do. Particularly if you know where they're going, you can set up ahead of time, you can kind of put some bubbles on some gates, catch some dudes, pop a few interceptors, warp away, just generally be a bit of a dick, always fun, and you can get a lot of content. So in terms of fights that you can take, in terms of like finding content, finding fights, Cormorants are really good because there's loads you can take. You don't have to just find the specific type of thing. In terms of the fleet itself, you want mostly Cormorants. You want lots and lots and lots of deeps. The more deeps you have, the more things you can kill, the quicker you can kill them. Like I said, you want to be in killing things and getting out, so the more you have, the better. You pretty much never fly Cormorants with Logi. They're super squishy. They've got barely any EHP, like 5k EHP. So the trick is to not get shot at, basically. The trick is to always be outside of the range of guns. That's your Logi. You're not realistically going to catch reps, so any of the people who would be in Logi get those guys into more Cormorants or into support ships. So in terms of support ships, what I mean by that is interceptors. You always need scouts. You always need scouts all the time in all fleets to find you things to kill. You also need people to provide you tacticals on a grid, so places on a grid to warp them to, so that you can stay on grid and kill dudes. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Vigils, incredibly useful. In my opinion, the Vigil is the most overpowered ship in EVE. The Vigil applies target painters, make the enemy bigger, make your guns hit them more, so you do more damage. The reason I think the Vigil is ridiculously overpowered is it's a 3 million-esque ship that you can fly on day 2. Any new bro can fly a Vigil, and it basically force multiplies, like it will give you a percentage increase in the entire DPS of your fleet. So if you've got 20 Cormorants who are doing whatever DPS, and then you do 20 Cormorants and 1 Vigil, each of those Cormorants will do anywhere from, I don't know, 10 to 60% more damage as they apply better. So you've now gone from the equivalent of 20 Cormorants to the equivalent of 32 Cormorants. Like, that's huge improvements in output of DPS just by having that one ship on grid. So Vigils are fucking great in Cormorant fleets. They also mean the difference between when you've got an interceptor just bouncing around at 100 right on the edge of tether, right on the edge of your ammo range, you just get one shot at it. Sometimes you graze them and they get away. The Vigil target paints them, gives you enough to pop them, and it's the difference between a kill and an interceptor burning off. Maulises, super useful as well, and Crucifiers for the same reason. So these E-War ships will be very long range, they'll be anchored with you, and they'll be looking at the big scary shit that's coming trying to kill you and damping them down. So really, in that case, you're looking at sniper boats, so you'd be looking at maybe they've got Confessors on grid, or they've got Nagas, or I don't know, anything that's got like long range. If you can sensor damp them or dick with their weapon system so they can't affect you, you can stay on grid for longer. It's really all about staying on grid for as long as possible. Commandeses as well. So Commandeses are pretty cool. I think it's questionable how useful a Commandesi is on a Cormorant fleet though. So the downside of a Commandesi is very expensive. Like, if you lose it, your ISK efficiency goes down a lot compared to if you're just playing with Cormorants. So a bit more dangerous if you want to be wild. Like, you couldn't do as many ridiculous things if you have a lot of Commandeses in your fleet as you could if you were just Corms. The links aren't particularly useful to Cormorants, so you don't really need the information, the lock range link. Lock speed's kind of nice, but it's not the end of the world. You're not really anchoring too much, so travel speed doesn't matter. You're normally at range, so evasive maneuvers doesn't matter. You're not tackling things, so interdiction maneuvers doesn't matter. Shield, again, shield's always nice, but it's more your tank is your being outside the enemy's range rather than actual tank being shot at. So Commandeses for links, not amazing. The final thing though is the micro jump field. So the micro jump field will move any ships from your current location to another location 100 kilometers away. Now obviously, if you've got some good Commandeses and you time it right and you get all your shit together, you can do some mental things boosting around grids and killing dudes. Tom, for example, obviously makes great use of this in some of his fleets. That being said, they are quite expensive, so weigh that out. And finally, dictors, so interdictors. Interdictors fucking super useful, almost invaluable for any fleet in nullsec. You want to be able to pin dudes down on gates, pop them and then run away before they can do anything. You want to pop drag bubbles up to grab people out of position. You want to do all that stuff, so dictors mandatory. The reason I don't fret so much about losing dictors is the way you would use a dictor in a Commandesi fleet is very scared. So you will be cloaked up and jumping gates. You'd be putting bubbles places and cloaking or disappearing. You wouldn't be staying on grid like a Commandesi would. So it's less, should be less dangerous for them. That being said, you always lose dictors. If anyone went to my dict class yesterday, or if anyone's interested in knowing more, the video will be going up on YouTube soon. So feel free to listen to some of the things I had to say about dictors in more detail. Okay, got a couple more pieces of theory to talk about before we go out and start doing things. Does anyone have any questions at this point now? Come on, someone's going to have a question. That was a huge amount of monologuing I just did.
What's your favorite color?
I appreciate the technical
You are old.
Either we are all very smart or we didn't get a shit whatsoever.
Okay, I'll carry on with some more stuff. Combat probing, super useful. I did a class the other day on combat probing. Combat probing is invaluable to interceptors. If you can combat probe on an enemy, walk to them at maybe 70, maybe 50, depending on the situation, align out away from them, pop a few dudes and move. That's basically how you get all your kills. That's how you position your fleet.
Stath,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I see the fit. It's not cap stable, right?
Yes, correct.
How do you deal with that?
So you don't need to be cap stable in this fit. You don't run your micro warp drive that much at all. Tal Wars, you basically always have the micro warp drive on. You're always moving around grid. Cormorants, most of the time, you're not using a micro warp drive. The only time you use it is if you jump into a gate and you need to crash it real quick. Micro warp drive to crash gates, obviously super useful. Or if you're on grid, you're kiting people, they're coming at you, and they're not coming at you too quick. So if you turn your micro warp drive on as you align out, it increases the time it takes for the enemy to catch up with you. We're not super fast in these Cormorants. We don't go that fast. We go, what's our maximum speed? What is our maximum speed?
I got a question.
16.
Yeah, 1.6, 1,600. We're pretty slow. Anyone's going to catch us, but if you can stay on grid for an extra 5 seconds before the interceptor gets you, you might pop for interceptor, or you'll kill something else. So that's the only time you really use a micro warp drive. So cap stability is not an issue. Sorry, someone had a question?
I do. So, I heard you make some YouTube videos, right?
Yeah.
What's the name of the channel?
They're on the Brave Dojo channel. Can someone link that? Oh, pre stacked up in the can. Yeah, so Brave Dojo, Jinx, head of Dojo at the moment, is doing some really good work, kind of curating a shit ton of videos about all sorts of stuff. You guys should definitely check them out. They're pretty great.
Okay, thanks.
So combat probing, super useful, do combat probing. Right, okay, I've got a question for you guys, and this is the same question I asked in my class yesterday, so if you were there and heard it, don't spoil it. What is the minimum distance you can warp in EVE?
150. 150?
It's 50 kilometers.
Oh, right.
So you can only warp to something that's 150 kilometers away from you, but you can warp to it at 100 kilometers. So the minimum distance you can travel through space in a warp is 50 kilometers. Now if you think about that, that's actually really powerful, because if you're kiting away from an enemy fleet and they're maybe 120 away from you and they're like, oh, all these interceptors, I'm going to burn at them and kill them. If they burn at you in a straight line, they're bad, you're going to kill them, they'll die. Good interceptors will obviously come at you at an angle, they'll spiral in on you, as it's called, spiral tackle, and might be able to get under your gun. But that takes them some time to do. While that happens, you could be shooting at them, or shooting at the slower guys behind them. What you can then do is when they get maybe 50 kilometers off you and you're like, okay, it's getting a bit close now, you're already pre-aligned out so you can warp, or if you've got a guy in front of you, an interceptor, doing what's called a tow line, you can warp to him at 0, but then you're a long way away from the enemy and they're going to turn around and give up. But if you warp to him at 50, you've now gone from 50 kilometers back to 100 kilometers. That interceptor is going to probably still keep burning at you, and that gives you time to come out, realign, and shoot him. So the longer you can stay on grid in a Cormorant fleet, the more opportunity you have to kill things. So really what I'm going to talk about from this point on is what you do to maximize the amount of time you can spend on grid. One last thing, sorry, before I go into like practical examples and stuff, is ammos. So almost always you're shooting javelin, you're shooting spike, and you're shooting it with scan resolution in on your SIBOs. Always remind people, if you ever change from optimal range scripts to something else, always remind them to change them back, because I do this all the time, I forget, and then you see a guy that you could pop real quick, but you can't lock him because you don't have the right script in. So by default, always have optimal range in there. Now sometimes you want to change to short range, and that's basically if you are on one side of a gate and you know someone's about to jump into you, and you know you can just alpha them, it's not a fleet, it's not something you need to be worried about, it's just a ship you can grab and pop. Change to short range ammo and scanner res and just pop them real quick on the gate. Also, if you're fighting like someone who gets in on you real close and you just need to brawl it out, occasionally antimatter is the answer there, but you really don't want to be in that situation because they probably have more tank than you. So you do quite a bit of DPS, you do maybe 270 DPS with antimatter, with javelin, but you do it with 5k EHP. So you're going to be doing a lot of DPS, but not for very long. Okay, that was all the theory I wanted to talk about. Anyone have any questions about that before we start dicking about with Cormorants? Cool, okay. Can I get a volunteer to be a target, please? Can I get someone to be a dude who we can pretend to shoot at?
I mean,
Runarek, X up. Was that Xing up to be a target? If you could just warp, like get somewhere else, get away from the main blob so we can warp to you. Okay, I broadcasted this dude. He's going to be our target, our sacrificial target. Everyone else, if you can get on me, and we're going to move away a little bit. Okay, so do you guys have probes in your cormorants? How many of you guys have probes? Put a P in fleet if you've got probes. Cool, okay. At least one person. Is that all the probes we've got, really?
Really shit, I'm really terrible at this. I just thought I'd... Oh, God.
So that's absolutely fine. I'll explain how it works. Yeah, if you could reshift the probes real quick, that'd be great, because I just want to show you an example of how you get on a target in a simple situation, and then we'll make it a bit more complicated. Okay, here's the fit again. It's a really simple alteration. You don't need to change any rigs or anything. You just literally change a few of the modules. And Rubric, if you could turn your micro warp drive on just to make yourself a little easier to probe, that'd be great.
just probe the rogue next to him.
Oh yeah. Okay, so first thing you do is launch probes. Ideally you want to maybe set up probes ahead of time if you can, but you can absolutely do this in combat with a little bit of practice. Like once you've just got a little bit of practice of probing, you can totally do this on the fly while on grid with the enemy. So you drop your probes out, you press F9 to bring up your menu. First problem is find out where you are in this menu, which is really hard. Once you've found yourself, double click yourself in space. You can find yourself because there's a little crosshair over you. There's also probably the home station might be over you as well, so you need to do that. Then you drag the probes over yourself, so drag that cube over yourself. Looking at the various faces of the cube, I select one of the faces of the cube, drag it, and then double click on the cube again. That recenters your camera until you've got it completely over yourself. Then drop the probe's size down to minimum, and if you've got one pre-configured, you use a pre-configured super small overview, super small formation, and my probing class talks about how you build those.
I need to do that probing class.
Yes, the video is up on the YouTube already, so I talk about this in way more detail. I'm obviously going quite quick. Yeah. Once you get the probes in position, you press scan, and at that point you can turn F9 off, and you don't need to look at that probe window anymore. So now you're just looking at the probe results. So first thing to do is make sure you've only got ships selected, make sure you've not got anomalies or signatures or anything. And then the first thing you'll notice is there's a shit ton of cormorants, because the guy we're probing down is a cormorant, and also we're a cormorant. So the way you solve this problem is you order by distance. So you want closest at the top, furthest away at the bottom. And because we're all anchored up here, basically anyone within like 100 kilometers of us is friendly. You just select them all, right click, ignore result. And then maybe analyze again. Now at this point I've filtered out a bunch of bad guys, but there's still one person I want. And the way I do this in a combat situation is I hover over him in space and look at the distance away from him he is. So right now this guy's 250 kilometers away from us exactly, and you time it in your head so that the moment the probe scan ends, so the moment the probes finish, I know what his distance is. So 250 was the distance when my probes ended. I then scan down my list here until I see a ship of the right type, the Cormorant, that's 250 away. And then I click on him, right click, ignore other results. So now the only probe window I've got in all of system, regardless of who comes or leaves, is our boy in the Cormorant down there. So his ID is KIK300. Okay, that was pretty quick. Does anybody want me to go over what I did with the probing there again, or is anyone confused? You guys still probing? Anybody? There's a shit ton of scanner probes in space, so I assume some people are probing.
I finished probing.
You've probed him already. Good work.
Me too.
Oh, put a P in fleet if you're still probing.
Is that KIK-300?
That's the one.
Oh wow, I'm getting into this.
You guys got it. You guys got it. Okay, I'm going to broadcast this guy. Okay, now nobody shoot at this guy. This guy's our friend. He's just being an example of a man we could shoot at, hypothetically. So let's assume this guy isn't a Cormorant. Let's assume this guy is like something scary, something big and juicy that we want to kill. So our plan is to get on him, kill him, and run away before anyone before anyone can do anything about it. So the first thing you need to think about is when we land, the first thing you want to do before you do anything is align out somewhere. You always want to be aligned somewhere. So what I like to do is I like to look at my overview and find a gate. And it doesn't really matter what the gate is, just find a gate, choose one. REB is a good gate we can align to. The next thing I want to do is, I personally have tack packs that I bought off people, which have, for each system in Eve, for every gate, I have two tacks, two bookmarks, an up bookmark and a down bookmark. Now these are fucking great, because I can align to any gate, and then have my people and places window open, and pre-click the tactical which would be on the gate we're about to align to. Now what this means is, you can tell the fleet a celestial object, something anyone can align to, like the gate, but I can warp them to something off the gate. So if that gate's bubbled, if it's camped, I'm warping to a tactical. Now the fact of me pre-selecting the bookmark means if something bad happens I need to warp quick, or I panic, or anything bad's happened, I've already got pre-selected my out bookmark that the fleet's going to be aligned to. So I don't have to think in a panic situation, I just have to right-click warp fleet, which is quite a cool place to be. So we're going to align to this guy. So the next thing we want to do is, I'm going to call the target, I'm going to broadcast him again. Oh, to broadcast targets, by the way, guys, I broadcasted the wrong. To broadcast targets, hold X and click it on your overview. Could everyone give a go at broadcasting our boy there? Hold X, broadcast. Super easy way of broadcasting. Then you tell the fleet to align to it. So guys, align to rubric now. Now the way I like to call aligns. He's too close to us. He's too close to us. Would you mind warping away a little bit? Sorry, burning away. Oh no, he's not too close. 250. Yep. The way I like to do this is I like to wait until my ship's completely aligned at warp speed and then wait another couple of seconds. The reason is normally you, or at least I start aligning when I tell the fleet to, so I'm already moving before they are. You want to wait so most of the fleet's aligned, and fast, snappy aligns are really what get the job done with Cormorants. So if you're all aligned quickly, you can move a lot quicker. It's way better. Right, so you've aligned the fleet to them, you've already got them scanned down, you right click, you warp fleet. And you want to warp fleet at a distance. This guy's not moving very fast. Maybe he's a big ship, maybe he's just like yodeling in space. So we're going to play it on its side of caution. We're going to warp in at 70. So I'm going to right click warp fleet at 70, and we should all land 70 off him. And immediately on land I'm going to call the align out. So fleet align REB, fleet align REB. And before we've locked him up, we align out. And then you could lock him up, pop him, which please don't. And then we warp the fleet out to the bookmark.
Warp drive active.
So we were in, we landed, we aligned out, pop the dude, warp away. In and out, super quick. And that is basically the entire, and you see we landed on a bookmark off the gate here. So what I could do now is, you never want to leave a fleet just like this in space and not doing anything. You always want to be aligned to something. So I could say fleet align to REB, fleet align REB, and we all align up to the gate. And the cool thing about these tack packs is, let's say someone's probing us down and they're just warping on us now. It takes 7 seconds, by the way, for you to enter and exit warp, even if it's like only a few hundred kilometers. So if someone was warping onto us now, before they could lock us, before they could drop a bubble, we'd see them warp in. And because we're already warped to this gate, I can do this.
Warp drive active.
So we're kind of passively aligned to this other tack I've got above the gate. So I can warp us to this without you guys having to have that tack, and without you knowing where I'm, this arbitrary location I'm saying aligned to. I'm able to move the whole fleet up. So fleet align keepstar. Now that is a very, very basic example of how you move a fleet around to get dank kills, and you will be surprised how many kills you can get just doing this. Just by literally looking at a fleet, finding an interceptor that's in the wrong position, probing him, warping a fleet at 70, warping off. Now if it's an interceptor, it's probably going quite quick and he's not much of a threat to you. I'd probably walk to an interceptor at 0. So walk to him at 0, by the time you'll land he'll be 70, 80 off you, lock him up, pop him real quick, align out, you're done. Any questions?
Warp drive active.
I got my gate tack, I bought them off people ages ago. People used to make them. I don't know if it's still the case anymore.
You can still buy tack packs.
I fucking love tack packs. I buy all the tack packs I can find. I just cannot even do Eve without tack packs. Other opportunity for people, if you guys are a new bro and want to make some money, if you make some tack packs, you can sell them. Like if you go around and make a tack pack for every place in Amencia, you sell them 300 million, 400 million ISK each, and you can sell them probably 30 times over. There's always more of a demand than a supply.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of work to build them, and you've got to copy them. But 300 million, I would pay 300 million without even breaking a sweat for a tack pack of a region I don't have. They are so valuable.
Question: is there a shortcut for the Align broadcast?
There is, and I can't remember what it is. There never used to be, so I don't use it. A. No, A's shortcuts to a line. There's a shortcut to broadcast a line.
Oh, sorry.
Fine.
You might have
did
to set
say-
that up.
Default is none, I think.
Yeah, you can now do that.
So you can set it in shortcuts and then navigation.
Shortcuts, navigation, and what's it called? Broadcast a line?
Broadcast a line too.
Yeah, I don't even have it broadcasted. I'm gonna...
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Alright, I've reassigned it. There we go. Okay, right, so that's a simple case when there's no bubbles anywhere. Bubbles obviously make things way more complicated. So let's talk about bubbles. Let's say we're just roaming through space in a fun roam and we want to see what's on the other side of this gate. So, could everyone align REB please? Fleet align REB. One of my interceptors, can you eye up please? Thank you. Good technique I always like to do is know who my interceptors are ahead of time, and ideally know ones who have a microphone, so I can speak to them and they can speak to me about what's going on. Perfect world, you've got Vargren being your interceptor, being your scout, because that guy's badass and just gets you all the process, but unfortunately we're not always that lucky to have Vargren in our fleet. So, Carhig, can you please jump through REB and tell me if the gate's clear? Other thing I like to do at this point is I've called out a person who I'm going to now be communicating with for the next few minutes at least. I always like to right click and add to watch list. Don't know about you guys, my memory is fucking terrible.
I do believe Carhig was saying he has to run, not eyeing up for interceptors.
Oh, sorry. Max, could you jump?
You got it.
Thank you so much, Max. Okay, so Max is going to scout our gate. Obviously really important in Cormorants because we're super squishy. If there's baddies on the other side, that would be bad. So we're going to align to this gate. We're going to now warp through.
Warp drive active.
Nitsum, are you with us?
Yeah.
Could you just hold off 1 second and not take the jump with the rest of the fleet?
Wait, what do you think I am currently in?
I don't know. Why are you coming in?
Gate
Ah,
is
okay,
clear,
ah.
see?
I'm an interceptor.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to show you. I want you to be an example of someone -1ing us. So I just want to use you as an example of a target. So, sorry, Max. You said side was clear.
Yep, this
Fleet jump, fleet jump. So you jump through. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have someone coming up behind us who we want to kill. Maybe we're running away from them. Maybe we've just popped a few of their interceptors and now they're chasing us. Remember, Cormorants warp quite quick, so if they're cruisers or just kitchen sink fleet, you think about GE TAC, right? We'll chase people, everyone will chase 2 gates, and then only a few people will chase the 3rd. And then by the time you're 5 gates out, you've got 2 dudes. So we can be running, and then we've got someone behind us, maybe an interceptor, spotting us what's going on. And we want to now pop some dudes. We want to turn around and do a bit of a fight. So at this point, fleet line up, fleet line up. Can I get a dictator to D up in fleet, please? Can I get my dictator? Pearson, are you on this gate with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool, can you flag exempt, please? And then just
Done.
approach gate at 0. So right now, we're going to warp up to this ping, again using the uptacks we've got.
Active.
Fleet line down to gate, fleet line down to gate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a little trap for people following us. Okay, a line down to gate, a line down to gate. Now, the moment I hit warp, we want to bubble up. So we're gonna line down to gate. I'm gonna warp the fleet down within 70, and then Pearson bubble up, please. Pearson bubble up.
Active.
Now we are now perfect sniping distance off this gate, and we're going to align to QE tac, fleet line QE tac. So Pearson, right now you're on that gate in a fairly precarious position. So based on what's coming behind us, and ideally we'd have someone behind us telling us what's about to jump through, you can either burn out the bubble and get with us, or get ahead of us, maybe move to the QE tac gate, or if there's someone right on top of us, you could cloak or crash gate. Basically, you're in a bit of a dangerous position for the time being. So now I want my interceptor, Max, can you please move to the QE tac gate and burn me a tactical? So let's say I'm in a system I don't have a tac back in. I don't have a tactical on this gate, we're in hostile space. I don't really want to warp my fleet to this gate that I can't descan at 0, because that's super dangerous. But I know for the next 5 or so seconds I'm going to be on this gate ready to go. So Max, please can you get me a tactical on that gate? So what that means is I'm telling my interceptor, burn to that gate at 0, burn off it at least 150, and then just chill, just burn around it and tell me what's there. And ideally, the moment you can descan that gate and you tell me it doesn't have a bubble on it, tell me that in comms, and we can send Pearson there. So we can send our Dictator ahead of us. And what this means is, if more shit comes through this gate than we want to deal with, we can pop 1 or 2 dudes, we can warp off, and then we can bubble behind us to slow them down more. So we can maybe set up on the next gate.
Gate is clear, burning tech.
Cool, Pearson, warp gate at 0, please. And then Nist, if you could come through the gate and break cloak, and we'll use you as an example of someone we could kill. So go, Seabo's on. So we're aligned now. You notice we don't have our micro warp drives on. And we've been aligned for quite a while, and we're still at like pretty much a beautiful range on this gate. So regional gate, he may jump 12 below it. Worst case, he's still on our optimal. And now we've got 2 choices. Sorry, go ahead, Nest.
I just jumped in.
Just break cloak, please. Guys, just lock this chap up as we see him.
Tag ready, 150 off
kilometers.
QED.
Okay, cool. So now we've got 2 options. We can either warp to the gate at 0, which we now know is cleared because our interceptors are already there telling us, or we can warp to the tactical. Let's say this whole system just gets like mega giga fucked and it's just like horrible. That's actually not a bad position for us. We can warp, we're already pre-aligned, we can warp to our interceptor off the gate. In fact, let's do that now. Why not? Which is already in a safe position. So we know we're going to land somewhere safe. You see how we all warp there as well? So as a fleet jumps through a gate, it takes them a long time to kind of get set up. They're spread out, they don't really know where we are, they're burning in different directions. Some idiot always burns directly at us, we just kill him real quick. And as soon as you get close, we warp off. This is really cool for popping a few dudes and then moving away. If this whole system gets giga-fucked and this gate's bubbled and it's all like a nightmare, let's just bounce around some Celestials for a bit. We've got loads of interceptors in this fleet. We've got, there we go, we've got a nice drag bubble that we didn't land in, which is cool. Fleet line to gate. And Max, if you could +1 us through this gate, please. So right now, the enemy fleet who's leaving that gate to follow us is going to land in that drag bubble. We can then warp through this gate. Take what? Gate is red. Don't jump until the scout gives you confirmation that the other side's clear. Max?
Yep, warp into it.
Hold, gate's red. So some of these guys may have warped to attack if they're smart. Some of them will warp to the bubble and burn in. Some of them may have warped before the bubble got up, so they'll be on the gate. But again, we're just spreading out their fleet, which is good
Gate
for
clear.
us. Fleet jump, fleet jump. And then we could do the same thing on this gate, or we could do something else. If the gate's mega fucked, we just bounce around tacticals, we found some good stuff. Let's talk about how we can actually... Let's say they really want to be on this gate for some reason. Gate is where they want to be. And it's a scary fleet, it's not just something we can stay around for ages. Fleet line up, fleet line up. And, okay, let's get a bubble on this gate at 0, please. If you could bubble up. Person.
On it.
Awesome. So right now, let's align down to gate, align down to gate. If we were to warp to this gate now, would be fine. But if we warp now, we'd land at the edge of that bubble, which is a really bad position for us. That bubble there is going to fuck us up because everyone's in optimal of us. Like, it will be bad for us to land that bubble. But let's say we still want to set up. Right now, we're 256 kilometers away from it. I mean, we could micro watch out and burn in, but that sucks. So what you do here is interceptors, or any fast frigate for that matter. So So let's say we've got an interceptor on that gate at 0. NIST, could you do this for example, please? Could you warp to REB at 0 and burn me 70 kilometers perpendicular to our position?
Can someone else do it, please?
Sure. Max? Now, while we're doing this, we want our interceptors to maybe be hunting, finding guys around, finding targets, finding stragglers. Ideally, we'd want people in the system on the other side of this gate, interceptors telling us like what's going on behind us, what's about to jump into us. We'd want interceptors on the next gate. We'd maybe want dictators on the next gate. Like, the more people involved in this fleet, the better. So, NIST, in fact, let's go... let's use NIST. So we see NIST is this interceptor that we're about to warp to here. And what I can do to make this a bit easier is I can tag this guy. So if you right-click a guy in fleet, tag item number, if you're the FC, that tag stays for a long time. And now it's really easy for us to see which of the interceptors I'm referring to with NIST. So, fleet align NIST, fleet align NIST. So just double-click him in space, you align to him. And then now we've got to play a fun game where you've got to kind of judge the angle. I want to land within optimal of that gate. It's a little hard to see, so I could just ask him, NIST, what's your distance from the gate right now?
97.
Perfect. So if I warp to him at, say, 30, I think that should do it.
Active.
So I think that should land us at optimal of that gate. Okay, we're a little far away, but I think anyone coming through that gate would still hit. And then we realign to gate, so align QTAC I. So that's a way to avoid a bubble, and you can do that obviously on a gate with a friendly bubble, or more often than not, any kind of big fleet fight, there's fucking bubbles everywhere, and you can do this to do that. So if you're flying an interceptor with one of these fleets, or you're FCing it, get your interceptors doing this. Get your interceptors moving around, doing these useful things. So this is an example of how we can pop a thing, move, pop a thing, move, pop a thing, move, which is what Corms are all about. But every time so far we've done this, we've been leaving grid. Every time you leave grid, it's kind of bad because you lose intelligence. So you lose kind of the feel for what's going on. When I'm on grid with the enemy, I know where they all are, I know what the threats are, I know what they're doing. If I'm warping somewhere else and the enemy's not on grid with me, I don't really know what's happening. You have scouts telling you, but it's not the same as seeing it yourself. Now, ideally, what I want to be able to do is reposition my fleet without having to worry about leaving grid, so I can always see where they are. So, Max over there, doing a great thing as an excellent interceptor pilot. He's just burning around, clearing some space. So he's looking at where the enemy are. Let's say they're on that gate. He's looking where I am, and he's trying to get into a useful position for us. So you see I've tagged him as 1, and I've tagged NIST as 0, and we've got a Sabre over there. Let's tag that Sabre as well. In fact, any interceptors we've got with us just be burning around now. So I can now look at this fight and say, right, we're a bit close to the enemy here. They've burnt towards us, for example, off that gate. I want to move. So rather than leaving gate, I can say fleet align max, fleet align max, fleet align max. So we all approach to him. And I can warp fleet to him at 100. This is probably going to be a little bit of a cold warp here because I was a little early. So you see how we all staggered there. I hadn't given quite enough time to align. The reason this is important now is I can't warp again until everyone exits warp. So we can only really warp again, like maybe now, which is maybe 5 seconds after I entered warp. I exited warp. So if you do that kind of thing where you're warping a little too quick before everyone's aligned, it becomes quite dangerous because your fleet gets stranded out over 2 or 3 warp points. Half of it gets bubbled and it all goes badly. I'm always very kind of militant in fleets about fast aligns, everyone aligning quickly, and it's so that we can do this, so we can bounce around very quickly without splitting the fleet up. Okay, other thing to keep in mind, Max right now is 141 kilometers away from me. He's too close to be a tow line. So what we're doing right now, by the way, guys, this is called a tow line. This is using people in your fleet to position you. So the big risk with this is if that interceptor in the time between we're aligning and when the FC clicks warp gets too close, you can't warp anymore. You're aligned to something you can't warp to, and you need to warp because really you want to leave it to the last possible second and then warp to get the maximum kills. So that's quite dangerous. So you need your interceptor pilots to be aware of what you're doing. So okay, let's align to him. Let's align to Max. Fleet align, fleet align, fleet align. Now Max, what I want you to do now is just continue burning in a straight line. Continue burning in a straight line. And NIST, I want you to maybe get 100 kilometers off us and start burning at us. So everyone realign to Max, realign to Max, realign to Max.
Can you repeat that?
So, yeah, that wasn't a great example. Let's pretend, guys, an enemy fleet is coming behind us trying to kill us, and we're shooting them with our space guns. What we can do now is, this is what I was talking about before, the warp speed. So right now, max isn't a great line, because at this moment, if we needed to warp, we couldn't. But in a couple of seconds, he's going to get 150 away. Now, if we approach him, and micro warp drive's on, so approach max, micro warp drive's on, and what I'd do maybe a few times is just say approach 1, because you can see in space 1 or 2 or 3, whichever interceptor we're using. So approach 1, approach 1, approach 1. Now max, drop your speed to match ours. So we're going maybe 2k a second with our micro warp drives. Match your speed to ours, so you're not going to be gaining speed. You always want to be over 150, but you don't want to be much further than that. So in fact, you're quite a long way ahead of us now. If you just basically stop your ship, we'll close the distance. Let's assume we've got someone bad following us, and always, guys, you'll have people who haven't turned the micro warp drives on. We've got a couple of guys struggling behind here. So guys, MJD on, MWD on, please. We've got bad guys chasing us. I'm watching the range between me and Max. I'm watching the range of the enemy and me. You're calling targets, obviously, this whole time. And at some point, you want to warp fleet to 100 kilometers. So he's 170 off us now. We've just warped 100 kilometers in space. So right now, anything that was about to hit us is burning full speed towards us. We're about to hit us again. But at this point, Max isn't a good warp out, so an interceptor might catch us. So you see number 2 up there, Pearson. If you fleet align 2, we can maybe pop that interceptor that's coming towards us, and then warp up to Pearson.
Warp drive active.
Okay, that was relatively complicated what we did at the end there. Did that make sense? Do you have any questions?
It made sense, yeah, but I might have to go through that a few times.
Okay, fleet align gate, fleet align REB. I get really anxious. I get super anxious if we have a fleet in space not aligned to anything. So I would recommend you all do the same. If you always assume a wave of bombers is about to decloak on you at all times, you'll lose less fleets. Okay, that is basically everything I wanted to talk about. That's pretty much everything I know about FC and Cormorants. Hopefully that was useful to you guys. Hopefully you learned some things.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Max, would you mind scouting us home?
You got it.
Okay, fleet take warp.
Warp drive
Gate is red.
active.
Clear in REB.
Fleet jump. Okay, would anybody feel confident taking out a Cormorant roam right now around Detroit? Somebody should do that. Fleet line LTAC 5. Come on, somebody take a roam out. I can backseat you. We can SRP all the things.
LTAC 5 out gate is clear.
Take what?
Warp drive active.
UTZ going to sleep. I think you're probably right.
I'd have offered, but my daughter's just decided to wake up, so that's not happening.
No worries. Okay, maybe in the next couple of days we can do some... we used to do a thing called a hot potato fleet back in the day, where you don't FC the whole fleet. You basically just do like a couple of systems and then change. It gets you the hang of doing the whole aligning, fleet warping, coordinating with scouts and whatnot. So if you guys are interested in that, we could definitely do that. Please let me know.
Clear in LTAC 5.
Fleet take jump. Take gate. Take jump. I've been doing too much... too many typing. Line to keep still. And take what? Guys, thank you so much for coming out. I really enjoyed running these classes. They'll be going up on the Dojo YouTube soon, so please let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. Always hit me up in-game or in Slack. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.